Yeah, just a brief question. I think Mr. Hillier has some questions. I fully support OREA's position on property rights and have done so for many, many years, actually. Do you feel there is in this legislation, does it reinforce or build on any different definition of property rights? You mentioned, say, property owners in southern Ontario. Is there a different application for treaty holders or Aboriginal people? Do they have a different set of property rights in your view? Is this going to be a problem?
I think that our goal is, or what we would like to see, is the reaffirmation of property rights in general. Everybody should be treated the same, so if there are special concessions in the Act for the Aboriginal and the treaty rights, that these surface holder rights should be to everybody else.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Hillier, go ahead.
Thank you very much for being here. Just a few questions, and I, of course, is a proponent of property rights as well, and I am a little bit puzzled. You said in your presentation that this offers better protection for property rights, and you make mention of the surface rights in mineral rights. This Act does not grant property rights. It does not unify those mineral and surface rights. It just deems withdrawal of prospecting from those. Do you think that's an improvement, where you're just deeming withdrawal and not reunifying those surface and mineral rights?
Pierre, do you want to answer that?
Thank you, Mr. Hillier. The notion of reuniting property rights has been sort of in the background over the last year and a half, and I know that it's one that you've promoted. The reality is that if you were to reunite the property rights, then they could be disunited or sold off again, and then when you ask to have them reunited at some point in the future and back and forth. We think the solution that the government's come up with for that issue is adequate by withdrawing mining rights.
And the other notion here of the people in southern Ontario having different rights conferred as people in the north, of course those mineral rights are not being deemed withdrawn under this Act as they are in the south. Do you not find some conflict or difficulty with that?
I think it's probably a reflection of a different economic reality. Mining is a very small, insignificant business in southern Ontario. It is a very large, very important business in northern Ontario. And I think the legislation reflects that difference.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you. That's
Thank
time.
you.
Mr. Bisson, questions?
Yeah, just a very quick one on Section 29 on page 4 of your submission. You're saying you're created that Section 29 sub 2 allows a back door for prospecting. I'd like you to explain that, because what Section 2 does, as I understand it, is to provide the Crown the ability to do right-of-ways for hydro. And so explain that a bit to me, please. Where do you see the loophole being created?
The loophole would be that there would be an opportunity to lay a claim down on top of properties or parts of parcels that should be exempt or not included in the Act. At that point, then it appears to be a ministerial decision as to whether or not those properties would be included or excluded from the claim.
And on the other issue where you're talking about mandatory licensing, you're saying there's an amendment you're asking for to affirm and recognize the rights of property holders. Hang on a second, I made a note here. But you're making it akin to that of First Nations on treaty. I think that's a pretty big step, wouldn't you say? Treaty rights versus a property right?
No, I think what we asked for was a recognition of the rights of surface property owners to be put in the purpose section of the legislation.
Well, you're not asking for something akin to a treaty right.
Oh, no, okay. No. We want it in the purpose section.
That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, Mr. Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for appearing. Your association has done great work in advocating for the people of Ontario that own real estate and wish to purchase real estate and want to rent real estate. So we appreciate very much you coming and bringing your point of view here. I have a question regarding the farms. So your point about farms, and I would like just a further explanation about the particular issue related to the roughly 2,500 farms we see. Could you help me with that?
Yeah. Well, actually, we're a little confused about that as well, because in the original act, apparently the farmlands were included, and now all of a sudden in the new legislation, they're not included under the restricted. So we're just would like some clarification, and we would like that to be included in the act as well as a restricted land.
Insofar as restricted, insofar as no staking is concerned,
Yeah,
is that what you're talking
yes.
about?
Yes.
So, all right, we will seek to get some clarification about that, but my understanding is that all private property would be treated the same in southern Ontario. So that farm is obviously private property. So. Okay, well, I will seek to find out a little bit more, and we'll get back to you on that one.
Okay.
Anyway, we appreciate your presentation and take your views very seriously.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. That's time for your presentation. Appreciate you coming in today.